You're listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with host Doc Martin. How do you step into your maximum potential? How do you connect your spiritual drive with your physical path? Get ready to meet the maximum you the world needs on Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin now. So recently on my trip to the Monroe Institute, I spent a week in meditation, exploration of different realms that my awareness could go to, many of which I had traveled to and journeyed to in my shamanic training. But I found myself when I got home, this was unexpected, that I had expanded my awareness and started to connect to different things in my garden. Now, I'm usually an animal person. I love nature, but man, a new cat goes by, I want to connect. A dog, a horse, a goat. But I found myself really, really drawn to one of the plants in my garden. Now, earlier this summer, I had bought some Lantana plants. They are a small bush, usually in my climate, my growing zone. They don't last for the winter. And they have these clusters, these puffballs of little flowers, little florets. And I had a lot of white ones. And even though they were not the most spectacular in my garden, they were something I kept coming back to over and over and over. Now, I plant giant zinnias, and they have the most spectacular colors. Incredible crimson and magenta and orange and just the most beautiful. And of course, when you cut them and you bring them into the house, it's like joy everywhere. But the Lantana kept calling me, and I don't know why. I just planted a lot of it. I planted a couple of it behind the house. And as it got colder and I knew that these plants weren't going to make it, I dug one of them up and I brought it inside. And I cut it back, and I thought I'll just let it be dormant for the winter. Well, it's not dormant. It's starting to puff out little leaves. And I kept wondering, why am I connecting with this? What is it that I am connected with? And I found when I went into quiet time and just in my meditative state, not actually in deep meditation, but I could feel my energy field expanding and connecting and bumping up to, I won't say merging, because I didn't feel like I was merging, but bumping up to that of the Lantana plant. And I kept being attracted to the blossom. Now, of course, the plant I brought inside doesn't have any blossoms right now, but I kept being attracted to the blossom, and I kept asking myself, what is it about this plant? So I looked it up, and you can use it for aromatherapy and essential oils, but it doesn't smell, it's not delicious, not like the bee balm or the geranium or the lilacs. This is not to me, it's not a delicious smell, but there's a power to it. So what I wanted to talk about was when you have an expanded consciousness, as I did for the whole week at Monroe, and that I'm trying to keep alive, you end up recognizing that we are in unity consciousness, and that I'm very animistic. That means I believe everything has a consciousness and intelligence. But I found more so after the week of experience at Monroe that I would find my energy field expanded and I could connect with things. Now, I have to confess, sometimes at work when I'm dealing with patients, I really don't want a wide open energy field because people are in a lot of crisis, emotional, physical, crazy time. But out in nature, I found myself expanding. And that intelligence that permeates the universe was really palpable to me. And so, in one of this sort of not quite deep meditation, I was reflecting on what did I love about the Lantana. And recently, I've had some lots of stressful moments. Somebody I love very dearly is undergoing a major medical issue and has to do some, quite frankly, horrific medical treatments in order to stay alive. And I found myself drawn to the lantana blossom. And I found myself reaching inward and looking at this lantana blossom. And what I discovered wasn't fun to discover it. But what I discovered was this wall of grief. Now, I'll share a little bit. All my life, and I bet many of you have felt this way. I can remember back to when I was 10 or 11, thinking, I do not belong here. I want to go home. Why? I'd asked at 10 or 11 years old, I asked God, the universe, why did I have to come here? Why did you make me come here? Can't I go home now? And so that when I merged, I didn't totally merge, but when I met up with the Lantana, I felt this wall of grief. And it was an existential grief, the grief we humans have at not remembering how incredible we are, not remembering our unity, and feeling that intense separation. And the grief of my childhood and the grief of worrying about this person I love very much. And I just said, or Lantana told me, I'm going to sit here and go deep into the blossom. Well, when I went deep into the blossom, there was like fractals. You know how tree branches branch? And of course, in the body, your circulation branches, your lung airways branch. Well, the florets were branching, and I could imagine, I'm not a mathematician, but I could imagine the fractals in the symbolism of this blossom. Sort of like if you look at a cauliflower head and you can go down and down and down. And all of a sudden, as I'm connecting with Lantana, the wall of grief drops. And I saw the unity. I saw the unity very clearly. And my sadness and my worry went away. It was exhilarating from the standpoint of that it was such a relief. And I sat there as I connected with this lantana blossom and realized that when I could connect with the intelligence of something else, in this case, a plant, which, as I said, is very unusual for me. I love plants, but I don't deeply connect. And to get that kind of teaching without having to do all the trips and the vomiting that you might get from ayahuasca, to get the kind of teaching that if you can look deeply and find the unity, the pain goes away. And that lantana was really a messenger this summer. And I didn't realize it. I just knew that I had to save one of the plants. I had to get seeds in order to have more next year, that I was committed to having this in the garden. And I didn't really know why. So then I Googled it. And I'll have to say, it's nice to get sort of a roadmap, but you should Google things yourself not Google, intuit things yourself, because how it is for you may be very different from what people put as the typical things about Lantana. But what they did say, and what I agree with, it was about resilience. And it was about adaptability and about grounding. All of the things that I needed this summer and I need now to help my person. And it made me recognize that when I expanded or I practiced being in that unity consciousness, when I practiced remembering that we all are connected, that I met somebody new. I met a new friend in the plant world, very new for me. And that in that conversation, in that communication, where our energy fields bumped up and connected, as again, I didn't totally merge, came these messages. And the messages also about the grief that we hold as humans. Walking the human path is hard. It's hard because it's not always elevated. It's not always connected. It's not always magical. But in that path that we walk and the purpose when we come, and we come to explore, many people talk about coming to remember, and the remembering is that expanded awareness, that expanded consciousness. But we will come, and our jobs on this earth, in being the most present we can be, despite the grief, despite the pain, being the most present that we can be, actually is a service. And that service is that we elevate all of mankind when we bring ourselves completely and truly forward. So here I have an experience with a plant. And from this plant comes a great teaching that behind the wall of grief is the foundation of unity, is the foundation of our path as humans and the sacredness of that path. Nowhere else in the universe, at least that we know of right now, can you have as rich, as deep, as powerful of experiences as you do as a human. It's not just our senses, it's not just our emotions, but we have the ability to intuit things, to connect to things, to bring the spiritual into the human body, and to live fully as human. The exploration, the infinite amount of exploration you can do is incredible. And, as a doctor, I'll digress a minute. I've seen people who are falling apart at the end of their life, and their body is really literally falling apart. And it looks painful. It looks troublesome. It looks disturbing. But they keep holding on because life is sacred. And even when it doesn't go the most beautiful way you want, even when it's hard for some at the end of life, even when the emotions are painful, this is a sacred place to be. And being present in it brings you the gifts that I got when I allowed my energy field and awareness to connect to a plant that I never met before this summer and get a teaching that really, really resonated and is helpful for me going forward. So when you explore, maybe you want to connect to something new, something different. Maybe you want to go deep into that flower, or maybe it's the bark of a tree, the ripple of a brook. I notice it's all nature things I'm talking about. I can't get away from it. But go deep. And I bet there's messages in there for you. Like when I get aggravated at the Blue Jays that come to the back deck and start taking all the sunflowers I left for the Cardinals. And they're yapping and yakking and, they're not the most pleasant in their appearance and their position when they show up. They're loud, they're squawking, they're pushy. They are beautiful blue, beautiful, beautiful blue. But even in those moments, I hear whispers of intuition and knowledge and awareness. And it opens me and expands me and reminds me that I am connected, even if I'm not home as spiritually we want to talk about it. I am in a sacred place. And what I'm doing here is valuable and powerful and important. And so open your awareness. Take time to connect to something new, something different. And see what you feel. See what you're drawn to. I was drawn to Lantana. I couldn't have predicted it. Draw yourself to something new, something that expands you, something that enlivens you. And be really, really present and sense and reconnect with how valuable and sacred your time on earth is. And enjoy every moment of it, even the rocky stuff.
You've been listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin. Tune in next time while the doc talks health, spirituality, and the impact your beliefs have on every part of who you are, body and soul. Doc Martin unpacks the challenges we face as human beings. To learn more about Doc Martin and Maximum Medicine, visit www.sharonmartinmd.com.